Sure.
My parents had radon mitigation done, and it seems to work pretty well. But the electrical usage of that fan is a little shocking. Is there a move towards more energy efficient devices and fans? Because, we're talking about smart grid projects here in Boulder. We're talking about, all of these smart regs for rentals and everything else. But if you do radon mitigation and it's sucking a lot of electricity, that kind of defeats some of the other energy conservation you're doing.
It's interesting that fan would be drawing. Generally, the fans draw less than 93 watts.
Okay.
And so if it's drawing a whole lot of power, there may be something else going on.
Okay.
It may have a bound motor, but there may be something else with the wiring that fan is attached to that's drawing, and it's not the fan.
Did you try to isolate just the radon mitigation system to determine how much it was taking?
Yeah, I think they stuck a kilowatt on it and stuff. I mean, they've got a big split-level, multi-level house, and this is set up in the basement, and it's a pretty big, noisy fan system. But
The fan's in the basement?
Yeah, it's a half-up, half-down basement. There's no place else in the house to put it.
The fan's supposed to be outside.
Well, I'm sorry, it sits on the outside of the house.
The fan does.
That I believe so,
Okay.
but where it comes through the house and everything is through the storeroom in the basement.
Yes.
And I don't know the actual numbers. My dad just says,
That it's drawn a lot of power. That's interesting.
At least in his estimation. I don't know actual numbers. But
It should be drawing less than 93 watts, as I said,
Okay.
unless he's got a really super powered fan. But that very, very, very rare that we use those on residential structures.
So let me elaborate on the story you told. The house is not a client's house; it's our house.
Oh,
And we were stymied by lack of information here. We got two estimates. One was low, one seemed high relative to the first one, but we couldn't tell what we were getting. The estimates were very basic. They weren't detailed, and we had no, other than our neighbors saying, yeah, they did a good job, we had no way to know really what we were getting into. So
To install a mitigation
yeah,
system?
and typically when we advise our clients, we tell them, look, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that expensive. It's a smart thing to do from a health perspective. But what we didn't know was that there'd be such a discrepancy between supposedly qualified and recommended radon mitigation installers. So what happens after they sign the contract? Like what are they going to do, and how can I weigh these two guys other than check their insurance policies? I mean,
and even that's not enough. And there's the National Radon Proficiency Program certifies mitigators. That's pretty much the only way in the United States to get any kind of credentials as a radon mitigator. However, just because you're certified doesn't mean you're actually going to follow all the rules. As I said, there's no legislation, there's no way to hold mitigators accountable. So the best thing for you to do is to go to the EPA's website, have a look at some of their information that's also available in these pamphlets by mail from the EPA, and then start asking questions. Really ask a lot of questions about of the mitigator. Does he know what the codes are? What are exactly the codes for the discharge point? What exactly are the codes for the wiring? And that's a good place to catch them, because the wiring is the first place they're going to cheat, because they don't want to tell you that you have to also hire an electrician. But they're just going to not talk to you at all about the powering of the fan, and they're just going to go and do some Class 1 wiring, which is illegal. It is required that a licensed electrician or the homeowner are the only people that can do Class 1 wiring in the home.
what about the differences in materials? Like, is there a membrane level 1 and a membrane level 5?
Good point. This is DWV pipe. It's very thin. A lot of noise is transmitted through this pipe. This is Schedule 40. Noise does not get transmitted through this anywhere near as much. It is actually required, not only inside but outside, that we use Schedule 40 now. Because this breaks.
Wow.
Often we put a system in a garage. If you even bump this with a car, it'll crack. Not so with the Schedule 40. Also, I brought a sample of the membrane we use. This is called Rad Tough membrane. And I'll pass this around, and I challenge you to put a hole in it.
Can we pass these
You
around?
please do. I challenge you to put a hole in that.
2 minutes.
Oh, I got my pocket knife somewhere.
That is a cross-ply plastic. It's 3 mil. It's as strong as 40 mil. So essentially, you can lay that on rough concrete and you can jump up and down on it and you won't put a hole in it. However, it's 10 cents a square foot. So what a lot of mitigators will do is they'll use the typical kinds of plastics that you might find in any crawl space that you might have in your homes, which is a visqueen or some other type of plastic, which is much cheaper. So what you find is, especially with the cheaper mitigators, you're going to find them cutting corners. They may not even glue that membrane to the wall, which in some of the codes is required and some of the codes is not. But gluing it to the wall creates an airtight space, and if you don't have an airtight space, you're not going to have the best suction.
Sorry, they're distracted with trying to poke holes in your
Yeah.
in your material. You've challenged them.
I go for it. Yes,
Yeah.
sure. See if you can. The other end.
Mark,
Well,
what's the FSR on this?
So,
What's the what?
The FSR, the fire spread rating, do you know?
I don't know actually.
so you mentioned, Mark, the new construction. They have things that you can radon-proof the home without having to do retrofit kind of stuff. Is this what you're talking about? And if
This would be one thing. One of the things that we do is now the Appendix F says that we're supposed to put membrane underneath a concrete slab. Underneath the slab. There's a lot of people who think that's a bad idea because of dewatering issues with when you pour the concrete, and it also creates a lot more expense. And in the end, it's not really necessary. The concrete slab functions the same as this as a barrier. We just have to make it airtight.
So that's a vapor barrier?
It's a vapor barrier. It's also it would function as a vapor barrier, but really what its point is to create when you have a crawl space, which is a dirt floor, we lay this over the crawl space to create a barrier between the soil and the air in the crawl space, and then we suck the radon out from under this before it comes into the home.
So Mark, we're out of time. Maybe you can mention your contact detail one more time.
Sure. My name is Mark Palmer. I'm with Radon Rover LLC. Phone number is 303-258-0282.
Thank you.
Sure.